Please welcome Mr. Dennis Swanson. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Thank you. Am I on? Oh, cool. I'll tell you what, I'll put 10 on this side and 10 around. You can kind of pass them around. At some point we'll need this, and like I say, if you have a email address, just see me afterwards. I'll write it down. I'll email it to you. We'll save paper, and the global warming people will like me at least a little bit. Thanks, Ross. I guess, yeah, I have to begin by saying I am an amateur. My training is not in science. My formal training is not in meteorology. My formal training is in. I have a degree in public administration. I have a degree in from here at the college in biblical studies, history, and political science. My master's degree from the seminary. Another master's degree from San Jose State University in Library and Information Science, and my doctorate of ministry work at Southern Seminary. So my training, my background, what I do is in theology. It's in biblical studies. So I am a self-trained amateur when it comes to the weather. Like I said, I got interested in weather when I was younger. Mainly because growing up in Southern California in Hawthorne, it never changed. You see all these pictures on TV and see stuff, tornadoes and hurricanes and weather and all sorts of cool things. It never happened here. So I began to be interested in it, began to make a study of it as kind of a hobby. I'm kind of curious about just about everything. And finally broke down several years ago and invested more money than I ever want to tell my wife about. In a weather, I have a professional weather station at the house, and got hooked into the National Weather Service. I'm a volunteer with the National Weather Service. Have been for about 5 years. I transmit all of the data from my weather station. Transmits 24 hours a day to the National Weather Service and 2 other national and worldwide data collection centers, because I have the only station within about 10 miles that does that has the things that I have on it. I have not only wind and rain and barometer things like that. I take ultraviolet samples. I do solar radiation samples at the house. Soil moisture samples and things like that. So it's data that they like to collect. So I send it there and got interested in the subject as it related to the Bible, because as you read the Bible, you begin to understand that not only is a creation, and we talk about things like that, but there are lots of weather-related items within the Bible itself. And as Ross said, I wrote 3 or 4 of the weather-related articles for the revision of the Urban's Bible Dictionary that came out a few years ago, and just began to kind of collect data and put things together. And then when in the last few years, when this whole global warming kind of thing began to take root and really begin to get going, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, I became more interested in it, and I became even more interested as evangelical Christians began to get involved in the discussion on global warming, which is the handout that I've given you. I'm interacting with them. A group called the Evangelical Climate Initiative, of all things, was formed, whatever that is. And you can read about it a little bit. What is that all about? What is it? And so that's a good question. In all avenues of life, in all avenues of what we do, whether it's politics or science or the arts or anything, what is the Christians? What is a biblical interaction with that? What is a biblical Christian way to interact and to understand these kinds of things? So tonight we want to talk about mainly the weather as it relates to the Bible. We're going to talk mainly about Israel, the weather there. What does the Bible say about the weather? What does the weather demonstrate to us about God? In many respects. So it will be a little bit of an overview in that regard, and then also some information. We'll talk about global warming. We'll talk about weather and the current events around here, just to kind of share that a little bit. And we get to the end, we'll have some time for Q&A and some questions and stuff. We can interact that way. It'll probably be the best way to go about that. Weather in the Bible. A couple passages that are kind of key. I'll make this later. If you go to the web, I don't have wireless access in here. Somehow they've cut me off because I'm not a member of the college. Apparently, I'm a member of the seminary. So I don't know what happened with that, but I can't get in. I called Nate Prince at home, but amazingly enough, he didn't answer. If you go to Narnia3.com, that's my personal web page, and you can get to the weather station there in Santa Clarita. You can look at the weather page and see the current weather at my house at 24 hours a day, which is also for that particular area. A couple of passages where you see the ticker for the weather results on the web page. One of the verses that come up is Luke 8:25. Who then is this, that he commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him? Which will come into play a little bit later when we talk about global warming, because we have humanity now trying to command the wind and the waves with some contraptions they are making to combat global warming. But my guess is that they are not going to obey. So it'll be interesting. And what about God? Can you live? In Job 38, can you lift? This is God talking to man, which kind of it goes along with the same thing. Can you lift up your voice to the clouds so that an abundance of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings that they may go and say, here we are? In other words, can you command the rain to come when you want it to? Can you command the lightning, God is saying to Job in this context? And the answer is obviously no. That is the provision of God. That is the provenance of God and God alone. But Jesus is the one who can command the winds and the water, and they do obey Him. One of the strongest, and maybe when you first read about that episode on the Sea of Galilee, it's, who's this guy who can command the winds and the waves? Well, if you go back to Job, it is a demonstration that Jesus is God. Because only God can command. This is the answer to Job 38. When God asks Job, Job has to answer, it's not me, but we understand that it is God. Weather in the Bible, there's over 1,000 references in the Bible to weather-related phenomena. And as we talk about that, God very often, when these events come up, demonstrates His power or displays His power or demonstrates His sovereignty by means of the weather. Just to look at a couple of them in Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 24. Jeremiah 5:24, they do not say in their heart, let us now fear the Lord our God, who gives rain in its season, both the autumn rain and the spring rain, who keeps for us the appointed weeks of the harvest. Take a look at Hosea chapter 13.